Hi there. We're going to work on this beautiful blue page today, but first let's look at last week's stuff. I've done some decorating of the silhouette ladies, putting a fascinator on them. I'm still finding names for them. If you have any suggestions, leave them below. But today we're going to work on that blue page that you saw at first, and we're going to move a little bit away from the idea of tea parties, but not that far. Yep, that blue page, it's a background by Joey Cardmaker, and I have to remove all the things that are a bit bulky, so it makes it easier to work on the page. But today we're going to do something with fairies. For some reason, they've caught my attention, and especially fairies that are in the style of Cicely Mary Barker. So I have a whole bunch of images that I have created. Some of them I've cut out, and today we're going to work with 3 of them on this blue page. This is a doily, a paper doily that I tea and Easter egg dyed. See, I cut off the edge to tuck into that pocket that I made. And it's going to be a hint of the next journal that is coming. I have to glue it on into the pocket carefully so it holds, but yeah, this is the beginning of a little fairy layout in this tea journal. And one of the fairies is holding a teacup and a teapot, so at least that theme is still there. How are you doing? I hope you're well. If nobody's told you today or this week, you matter. Take care of yourself because you matter. Part of taking care of ourselves is doing something creative, whatever it is, whether it's, reading a book that you enjoy. Don't forget, children's books are not just for children. I've been going through my boxes and found some old books that I read as a child, and I've been revisiting them. Maybe that's where the fairy thing comes from. I don't know. Anyhow, so here we go. Doing creative things. It helps our well-being. And each of us matters. So doing something that helps you feel how important you are, how special you are, how unique you are. Take time to do that. Here's a fairy door, and I want it to open and hide one of the fairies behind it. So I'm using this blade just to carefully cut the door open. And, yep, I'm thinking that it'll be a fun interactive piece. You'll see at the end how it works out. I'm pleased with it. It's interesting, as I was thinking about doing fairy-themed journals, I thought, I need a checklist. I need something that will remind me of how to navigate, specifically a fairy-themed junk journal for adults. One of them was that I need to include florals, but not let them take over. Meaning, I love flowers. Flowers are awesome. But the fairy element has to have the focus. And if I choose to use glitter, which I'm not sure that I will, it has, and all the sparkly stuff, it has to avoid falling out all over the place when you open up the journal. So I've solved the iridescent issue. I'll show you in this video, I'll use a medium. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I'll link below to what it is, to just paint a little bit over top of the fairy wings. So that'll take care of glitter to this point anyhow. The other thing is, I've realized fairy wings get in the way. They're wider than the body. So having the fit is important. We have that one little fairy to the left. I'm going to put her on a journal card, and this one on the right page. See, I had to make her a little smaller so her wings would fit in between the doorway. Now, the other thing I'd like to include with a fairy journal are some things that a fairy might say, or maybe some poetry, or some kind of little story. So I'm on the lookout for that. And hidden content. Fairies are always hiding behind something. There's the iridescence. It's meant to be mixed with watercolor, and it causes the watercolor then to be sparkly. But I found I can do it directly on these digitals that I've cut out, and because it's an inkjet printer, it doesn't smudge the inkjet color, and I can put it exactly where I want it. And in this case, I've chosen to do the wings and the petals of their dresses. Another practical thing that I have to be aware of is testing the glue on all the fabrics and all the papers and the special things that I want to use in a fairy journal that you wouldn't necessarily use on other things like vellum. Depending upon the glue, vellum might crinkle. So I have to be careful about that. Using Fabri-Tac is always a good choice. And you'll see I have some sari silk ribbon here. Oh, which I'm so excited about, by the way. I have a shipment of more of this sari silk ribbon coming from a person who hand dyes the sari silk. You'll see it in a minute. Yeah, I don't have it yet, but it's coming. So I used up most of the last little scrap of this particular one that I had gotten from them a couple of years ago. Lovely lady. I texted with her, that her number was on her website, and she responded right away. Really lovely lady. Hey, I'll show you next week what I got. Or if you're on Instagram, join me over there and you'll see. So I'm being really careful as I use glue stick. So that's one choice of glue. So that it only goes on the parts that I need it and want it to go down on. Because again, I want the fairy to be in the middle and to be able to lay down well. Now, in hindsight, I decided the doorway, when you opened the door, seemed, because it was still that admittedly beautiful paper, it felt like it needed to be something more, something else. So I chose to put down some more of that paper doily. And admittedly, if I'd done it ahead of time, that would have been a better choice. But you know how it is when you're creating. You don't always know. I'm trying to tie in the little ivy and make that a nice focal point. And depending upon what of the trim I choose, what glue I use is also important. I really like those daisies. They seem to be, they're so different in texture from the other things that I'm putting down. They make it, I don't know, magical in a sense, maybe. Fairy tale-ish, I don't know. My idea is that the little fairy with her teapot and teacup is waiting there behind the door to give her friend, who's coming with a lantern because it's getting a little dark there in the forest, some tea. Now this is the sari silk ribbon. Do you see a variegated color? And I want the darker green to be toward the bottom and the light blue, or it's dark blue, to be toward the top. So I'm trimming it exactly the way I want it. And I'm not going to attach it on the actual page. I'm going to tuck it in and attach it on the underside, on the other side, because I want it to be loose. I want it to be dimensional. So you'll see how I work that out. Should I add some pink sari too? I don't think so. Even though the little fairies have that pink hue, I really enjoy the green and the blue. So we're going to make a card, a journaling card out of the little fairy with the lantern. But first we have to create the ground, so to speak. So fairy journals, I think, often take place in a forest. And how do we as junk journalers, artists, people who are creative, how do we let our minds think about what is a forest without being literal, like trees? So that's what the sari silk and the paper napkin and the vines, to me, my brain tells me, oh, she's coming out of a forest. Imagination, yes. Hey, we're all made with imaginations. Sometimes when we're little, our imaginations carry us away to places that we have yet to be or go. And I don't know about you, but for me, my imagination over the decades has not been fed the way it would have made me happy to feed my imagination. Yes, I read books. I enjoy reading. I have been rediscovering some of the books I read as a teenager and some of the books that I read that I really enjoyed, the fantasy aspect of it. The Riddle Master of Head, H-E-D. Patricia McKillop, she's an author. The other book that I discovered when I was in middle school, that was hers. It was The Forgotten Beasts of Eld. Yeah, I know. But it got my imagination going. And even though I am all grown up now, I'm in my 6th decade, who says I can't have a nice, active, and enchanting imagination? So I'm starting to reread those favorites from my childhood, including the fairy tale book that I read as a child. And maybe that's where the whole thought of creating fairy books, fairy journals is coming from. Now, using art glitter glue to attach the vine, and it's an interesting, it's neither paper nor fabric. I don't know what it is, but it is a little bit stubborn about sticking down. I'm finding I'm using the clamps. They're pink. They're from Dollar Tree. Often in things these days. When I made the fascinators for the ladies' head pieces, I used those clamps too. And again, I suppose if I used hot glue, it would dry quickly and then not give me grief over not sticking immediately. I haven't explored hot glue enough to be comfortable with it. Yeah. So, a fairy journal. Have you tried a fairy journal? Have you done anything like this before? If I've intrigued you a little bit, for today's Friday freebie, I have a link on my website to the blog post that I wrote underneath it. Scroll to the bottom. And you can get this digital of the fairy door and the 2 little fairies for yourself. So I'll put the link below in the description of this video. And it'll take you to my website where I write. I'm trying to write a little more often. And below the blog post is a link to download the PDF with the little fairy door and the fairies. If you're interested, maybe you are. Maybe for the future, maybe the next thing you make, I don't know. Do you ever use your most favorite items in your journals? I have some real favorite things that I hesitate to use. Some people call it hoarding. I wouldn't go that far, but that's something I've been thinking about too. Why we use something, and why do we wait to use something? So I think I'm going to try and use more things. This sari silk that you see here is an example of me using up something that I really like. As I was considering using it or not using it, and thinking about, oh no, it's gone when I use it, I decided that I'd look up this lady that hand dyes the sari silk, see if I could get any more of it. I'm able at this moment in time to spend a little bit of money, so I reached out to her, and I don't know if she'll be able to make more of this particular one. It wasn't on her website, even though we were texting back and forth. But even if she doesn't, why not have it in this journal? It's something that I can look at whenever I open up the journal. And I'm already opening it up because this particular journal is from our daughter's 40th birthday. There's a few spreads in there about that. So it's like a memory journal, maybe. Or it's a my favorite things journal. Tea and hosting, having fellowship with people that I enjoy, and memories of imaginative things. The next thing I'll put in this particular journal is going to be something about books, because that's another of my favorite things. What are some of your favorite things? What would you put in a my favorite things journal? Do you like books? Obviously, I'm imagining, because you're watching this, you like crafting. Do you take pictures of those journals that you make? And do you keep those pictures somewhere? I mean, maybe you have the journals on your bookshelf. Maybe you've given some away. Do you take pictures before you do them? I've sold a few of my journals. I've kept a few of my journals. I've given away a few of my journals. So these videos, they kind of are on YouTube, on this channel that you're watching, are like a record of my crafting journey with journals anyhow. But I imagine if we use the things we really love in our journals, we can track the joy that our favorite things bring us. It's like a way to bring a smile to our face if our favorite things are in a journal. Sometimes it's as though we need a permission note saying, yep, this journal deserves my favorite things. I'm worthy of using what brings me joy. I don't have to put it back in the box. I can use it in this journal. So if you need permission, there, you have it. I have to give myself permission to do things like that. I think I'm busy cutting. This is interesting. No, I'm struggling with keeping this on the page. Fabri-tac. That's the choice. There we go. Let's put it down with Fabri-tac. So we have the under piece. It's like a fringe. It's rough and textural. And that's from Anne at Oldesina. I'll link below to her website where you can look at what she has available. And the little lace daisies, I guess, flowers, they're just in my box, and I don't know where they came from. Probably online somewhere, probably, Amazon. They're not vintage, I'm pretty sure. So different textures are important to me anyhow. I don't know about you. And I'm still practicing layering. So you can see the layer of the paper doily, the layer of the sari silk, the layer of the trim that looks like ivy. I've got a rough layer and a delicate layer. Yeah, it's coming together. More Fabri-Tac. I like Fabri-Tac because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. It doesn't mess with the texture of the paper. Sometimes art glitter glue, as wonderful as it is, and again, there's no glitter in the glue, as wonderful as it is, it will cause the paper to buckle a little bit. So I'm careful which paper I use it on. Now this is called Hammer Mill that I print out my digitals, and it's my favorite paper. It takes tea and Easter egg dye so well, and it prints really well, and it cuts. It's 32 pound, I think. I'll link below to where I get it on Amazon. I'm using a little bit of that sari silk on what will be a journal card. I've spritzed this multimedia paper with Distress Ink sprays, Mariner, Uncharted Mariner, and a few others. And it's dried, so it's just slightly, it has a sheen, it has a glow to it. And I think that works really well with the little fairy with her glow from that iridescent paint. And to add a little more texture, I'm just going to tear the paper. As you can see, I'm trying really hard to tear straight. So, and then I'll fold it down and use a punch to create corners. The reason I have the punch, that I don't do it freehand, is because I'm never happy with the exact corners that I cut. And when I try that little trick of picking up the corner and placing it on the opposite side to make sure that it's exactly the same, for whatever reason, it doesn't look the same to me. So I gave up. I bought a punch and I'm using it. That's it. So it's equal on all four sides. It's a journaling card that has some detail on the edges. Problem solved. And again, user error. Everybody else seems to be able to do it, but I'm not happy with mine. So I've solved my problem. And there's a little bit of spray that's on the other side, on the inside of that card. I may choose to cover it up in some way, or I might just leave it. And here's some of this pink sari silk from Anne at Old Asina. And I decided to make a nice loose bow at the top, tucking in that sari silk ribbon from Tammy. She's at Color Kissed Silk. Again, I'll link below. Trying to tie the ribbon so that it is tied beautifully, that it's not just a mishmash, and that it lies the direction that I want it to lie in. Because I want it to be tucked behind that paper doily. So it looks like she's just coming out of the woods with her lantern lit. One other idea about using our favorite things, I thought about making a guideline for myself that for every project, whether it's a page spread or it's a journal, to make a guideline that I should use one favorite thing per project. What do you think of that? Even if it's small, doesn't matter. Starting small sometimes is a good thing. I have a journal that I used one of the hand crocheted doily circles that my grandmother made. And it sits there on the front of a journal that I made, and every time I look at it, because I have it out in our living room, I think of her. So, using our favorite things is important. I'm almost sure of that. Do you have a different opinion? I don't know. Now, what shall I do with this twisty end? I could cut it off, but I don't think I will. I'm going to make it a detail. I already have the feathers from the fascinator hats that we did last week sticking up. So if this vine is sticking up here, I know exactly where in the journal the fairy layout is. Yep, there's that clamp again. Comes in handy for sure. It's not that the Fabri-Tac glue won't stick. It does. It just needs a little bit of extra time to dry, to hold. That bow is giving me grief. I can't decide which way I want the longest end to stick out. This layering is interesting. I started a month or more ago with the concept. Yep, see, she still seems a little plain to me, sitting there in the doorway with the same background behind her as the rest of the page. And as much as I love that blue background, I'm going to add some more of the tea-dyed and Easter egg dyed doily. Ideally, I would have done it first when I glued down the door, but I didn't know then. And that happens sometimes, right? So I'm estimating as well as I can to be able to cut it off. And I'm careful to use my black-handled scissors. Those are my paper scissors. The one with blue handles, those are my fabric scissors. Do you have that too? Do you have scissors that you save for particular things, specific things? Yeah. When I was growing up, my mother sewed, and I did not use her sewing scissors. Never. So interesting how those sort of things hang on. I have these blue-handled ones, and they cut so well because I've never used them on paper, only on fabric, which includes the sari ribbon, of course, and all the trims. All right, let's put this down. And when you open up the little door, the little fairy door, it echoes the paper on the opposite page. So it's like it's another more of the forest, just a different part. I like these scissors. They're slightly curved, and when I have to do a curve, they help. I think they're embroidery scissors. They're originally my daughter's. So there we go. We've got the door. We have the journaling card. The vine is stuck down. Let's put the little fairy in the door. She's waiting to serve some tea to her friend who's coming through the forest just at dusk. Next week, I'm going to show you what I've been creating in that fairy theme. I have some labels that are really cool. There's some fairy themed and book themed and tea themed labels that I'm going to have some fun with. At the end of this video, you'll see a video, it's a photo of what else I've been working on for next week and the week after probably. Because as I said, I'm going to start a new journal. It's a fairy themed journal. And I'm going to start looking for some. Do you have a favorite fairy story that you enjoy? Whether it's a fairy tale or whether it's a poem. I bet you Shakespeare has A Tempest. I bet you he has some things about fairies. Tuck the journaling card in. And it has just enough place to hold that when you close it, it doesn't go anywhere. I'm thinking, should I put something at the top? But I decide against it. Sometimes negative space is as useful as layering beautiful things. Here we go. I think I'm done. Attach that to the other side or leave it hanging out. Attaching the more textural ribbon there. And actually I ironed it. The way it came from Anne was beautiful, but for me I needed it more open, less compacted, as I did with the sari silk ribbon she sent me. I decided I want to have the bow to the right, so it's easier to tuck behind. How often do you keep adjusting the things you make? I keep going. I could continue going on the same little thing over and over. Finally, I have to tell myself, I'm done. This is done. It's good. Leave it. So, I wish you well. I wish you happy crafting, a little bit of imagination. I wish you the joy of using your imagination. Maybe pull out some of your books from childhood and see if they inspire you a little bit. Because how you feel matters. You matter to the people around you, even if you don't feel like it right now. I'm really happy that we can spend time together. And if you haven't at this point, I invite you to subscribe. Like the video, it helps show the video to other people. And I look forward to spending time with you next week. With a little more imagination next week. Don't forget to drop by and pick up your Friday freebie of the door and 2 little fairies. And here's a view of what's next week. Take care. It's Lori at Positive Thanks Living. Bye for now.